Hello everyone. Welcome back to our Fluent English podcast channel. Today we have another lesson that will help you improve your listening and speaking English skills. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a like. It really helps us out and ensures you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Your support means a lot, and we appreciate every single one of you. Let's dig in. Hello and welcome to another, much anticipated episode of the Fluent English Community Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Emma, and I'm so glad you decided to spend this time with me today. Whether you're listening on your morning commute, doing chores like washing the dishes, or just found a moment to relax at home, I want you to feel like you're part of our warm conversation. Like we're old friends, because our community is designed to help you improve your English skills in a natural, relaxed, and fun way. So, if you haven't already for some reason, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. That way, you won't miss an episode that could be a great help to you on your English learning journey. Today, I'm really excited to talk to you about how you can improve your English skills using Netflix series, step by step. Exactly what I would do with you if I were your teacher. Well, I hope you'll let me be your teacher today, at least for this episode, and give you some really fun and useful tips for improving your English listening skills and your speaking skills, using your favorite shows. So, the first thing we need to talk about is that this isn't a traditional way of learning English. It's a way for you to learn English from home or anywhere you can watch Netflix shows. It's going to feel different than using a textbook or having your English teacher tell you what to say or do. This isn't a worksheet. Okay, now that I've gotten that out of the way, I need you to be open-minded about using Netflix to improve your English listening and speaking skills. Let me ask you a question. Do you know anyone who thinks they're fluent in English just because they watch Netflix in English? Well, I'm sure we all know someone like that. And the truth is, it's easier to understand what you hear in English than to speak it. Right? If you've ever felt like, oh my gosh, I can understand what you're saying in English, but I just can't express myself confidently, fluently, quickly. Watching Netflix is not the same as being fluent in English. What I'm going to tell you today are the steps you can take to actively watch Netflix, so we're no longer just staring at the screen and listening to words. These exercises require you to play an active role in your English learning. So, you'll need a notebook, a pen, or a pencil. Or you can use a digital notebook, like Google Docs or something like that. And I'm going to ask you to play and pause Netflix. This isn't going to be just binge watching with your popcorn and your soda. No, I mean, you can have that too. Why not? But we definitely need a notebook and pen. Alright, here we go. If you're ready to be an active learner using Netflix, then let's continue. Alright. First of all, I want you to choose your favorite Netflix show, and I'd like it to be a show that's originally in English, so we're not working with dubbed audio or just English subtitles for a foreign language show. We want the original audio to be in English. It doesn't matter if the actors are native speakers or not. The point here is to immerse yourself in fluent, real-life English, not always native speakers, because actually, there are more non-native English speakers in the world than native speakers. Anyway, choose a show that you'll enjoy, because we want to really have fun and enjoy learning English. Yes, it's absolutely possible, you can do it and become fluent. And then, what we're going to do, before you watch the episode, is I want you to look at the preview information for that episode, like the summary. And my first question to you is, what do you think will happen in this episode? So, this is our first step. Before we even start watching the episode, I want you to hit the brakes. Stop and use your brain. You're so smart. We're going to use your brain to help you improve your English even before we start watching. So, I want you to predict, guess, imagine what will happen in this episode. In English, you're going to write down one sentence. It doesn't have to be long. I think blah 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 will happen in this episode. I think this will happen. Whatever it is, write it down, okay? And this is fun too, because you might be right. You might discover you have some secret powers to predict what will happen in Netflix shows. That could be a very valuable skill you didn't know you had. Anyway, it helps us activate our brain in English before we start watching. Now you can start watching. I'm going to recommend you turn on English subtitles, especially if you're at a lower intermediate level or if you find it hard to understand what's happening in English. If you're a more advanced English learner, then you don't need subtitles. Watch for about 10 minutes at a time. While watching, write down new vocabulary words, phrases, phrasal verbs, or just interesting pronunciation points you find. You can pause the show while you write your notes, but it's important to take notes while watching. After about 10 minutes, or when there's a natural break in the episode, I want you to summarize. This is actively using your brain. I want you to summarize in English what you just saw, what just happened. For example, this character did such and such, and that character reacted this way. Okay, so you're using your English skills to write what happened. You are producing English. This is what activates your English skills, so you won't struggle as much with hesitation when you need to speak or write in English. This is what will build fluency for you, so, even if it's a bit annoying or a bit challenging, just spend a couple of minutes or 10 minutes. However long it takes you, time isn't important here. Take your time and just write down what you think happened. Now, at this point, it's very helpful if you have someone to talk to about what happened, to confirm. Did you really understand what just happened in that show? If you don't have someone, that's okay. It's also effective on your own. Self-study is better than no study. Okay, let's recap. So far, you've predicted what will happen in the show. Then you started watching the episode or show, writing down new vocabulary. Then you summarized what happened in the show after a portion of the show, maybe 10 minutes or so. You don't need to be strict about this. It's just to give your brain a break so you don't have to summarize too much information at once. Now, before you continue, I want you to guess again what will happen. See, we're creating a cycle of steps here to activate your brain in English. So, you'll guess, predict, or imagine what will happen after you hit play again. And what about those new vocabulary words and phrases you found? Well, again, if you have a native speaker friend or a friend who knows a bit more English than you, or if you have the internet, Google is a very good English-speaking friend, by the way. You can look up these phrases and vocabulary words and probably figure out their meaning. And then I encourage you to rewatch that same part of the show and see if you can understand it better. If you watch that episode, at least those 10 minutes you just watched, if you can watch it again, you'll really be able to improve your English because you'll see, now I know what these words mean, and I understand what's happening. So, you see, it takes a bit of patience. You might be eager to get to the next part of the episode, but to improve your English skills, we have to be a little patient. We have to use our brains actively. We're producing English. Guessing what will happen, and checking and confirming our understanding of new vocabulary, phrasal verbs, slang, and you have the power to take control of your own learning. Using these steps for your own education, so you have the power, you can do this. I want to help you. Tell me in the comments. What's your favorite Netflix show? I recently made a video recommending specific Netflix shows based on your English level. Today, we're talking about how to think in English through everyday simple actions that you can do completely for free. Thinking in English is really important because it will help you think faster when you're speaking English, when you're listening to English, when you want to be part of an English conversation with native speakers. You don't have time to translate everything you hear into your native language and then translate it back into English. That will just slow you down. So we need to train your mind to think in English, and it's much easier than you think. Really. It's all about getting rid of those bad old habits you probably picked up in your traditional English classes. So, if you studied English for 10 years in high school or middle school, or as an adult, or in college, you probably picked up some bad habits along the way, like learning through translation. Did your teacher ever give you a list of words to translate into English? Or a list of English words to translate into your native language? Maybe your teacher used your native language in class to teach you English, and maybe 80% of your English lesson was actually in your native language, so you had to translate into English. Well, we're going to break those bad habits and build good ones right now. And you can do it. It's 100% possible. It doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how many years you've been studying. Really, you're capable. I know you can do it. So, let's get started. It's really all about your daily life and your daily routines. The best way to learn English is to live it. I remember when I was in Spanish class in college, and I really wanted to learn how to speak Spanish, but we had to learn by analyzing 18th century poetry with vocabulary words that nobody uses in modern conversation. And so, after months and years of studying Spanish, I got pretty good at analyzing poetry. Okay, here's the American English translation of the text you provided, but I couldn't hold a conversation in real life. I'd go down to the corner store, the bodega, where the owner was a Spanish speaker, a native Spanish speaker, and I'd try to talk to him. And it was so embarrassing because all I could really say was "Hola, ¿cómo estás?" And after that, I was lost. I had no idea what he said back. I was like, mute. I couldn't say anything, so I just said gracias, okay, bye, and ran off because I didn't know what else to do. So I don't want that to happen to you, but maybe you can relate. Maybe you've had some similar experiences. You can tell me in the comments if you have. But what we need to do is take what you already do every day and just switch it to English. And this will help you develop your skills for thinking in English. So, first, let's start small. Do you have a pet? Maybe a dog or a cat? Could you talk to your pet in English instead of talking to them in your native language, saying basic commands like come here, let's go, or get down, or no, or don't? You could do that in English. How about that? I mean, I do it with my pets, and I talk to them in English, Spanish, Portuguese, or whatever language I'm working on at the moment. Yeah, sure, they might get a little confused, but they'll learn quickly. Pets are pretty smart, especially if you use the right tone of voice. If you don't have a pet, well, you could create an imaginary pet. Or you could talk to your plants. Do you have any plants? Maybe you could get some plants and then talk to your plant. You know, studies have shown that when you talk to your plant, it actually grows faster, better, and healthier. So it's a win-win for your plants and for your English skills. You could just make small talk with your plant. Hey, plants, how are you doing today? Hope you're feeling good and healthy. Hope we have a nice sunny day for you. Hey, would you like a drink of water? Here you go. Okay, so that's one very simple everyday thing you can do in English. Be creative. If you make mistakes, it doesn't matter. Really. The idea here isn't to be perfect, the idea is to use English more and more in everyday situations. Next, do you have a cell phone? I bet you do. What language is it in? Your native language? Well then, it's time to change it to English. That way, now every time you look at your phone, you'll see the directions or options in English. And at first, it might be a little confusing, but since you probably already know how to use your phone, you'll figure it out, and you'll have to because English will be the only option. So go ahead, set your phone to English. Everything in English. Also, if you have the chance to watch TV or Netflix, do it in English. You could use subtitles to start, and then you can watch just in English. This will really increase your immersion in English, which is very, very important. Now, start small, so don't binge watch hours and hours of shows or Netflix series in English, because that will just wear you out and kind of stress you out. It might give you English overload. So start small. Maybe just watch half of a Netflix show in English. I mean half of one episode, not half a season. I know that's easy to do with some of these really great shows, but start small, maybe just 15 minutes in English is enough for today. And again, this is to train your listening and learn some new phrases. Now, it's really great to watch current TV shows and Netflix series in English, rather than classic literature or 1800s poetry, because while those are beautiful and rich, they won't really help you improve your conversational English right now. You can even improve your speaking skills and pronunciation by repeating what you hear on the TV show. Just slow down. You can pause the show if you're watching it on Netflix and repeat what you just heard. Now, you might only want to do this if you're alone. If you're watching with friends, they might think it's a little weird. Now, another thing I love to do in the languages I'm learning is watch recipes. I love to cook, do you? Well, if so, you'll love watching recipes in English, especially if you look for American recipes. This can be a win-win, where you learn about culture through food and new vocabulary by reading and creating these recipes, all in English. If recipes are too complicated or take too much time, and you don't have time to cook, just narrate your day. Now, if you do anything from this lesson, this is it. Narrate your day in English. You could just be narrating what you're doing right now. Right now, I'm learning English with Emma, and here we go. She should really just narrate her day. That's what thinking in English is. We're just training ourselves to do it by saying the thoughts out loud, and then it will happen subconsciously, without you taking that action, without you really consciously thinking about it. You'll start to subconsciously do it automatically. And that's what we're aiming for here, is automatic English. Yes, that's how we do it. A couple more bonus ideas to help you think in English. You can create a to-do list for each day in English. What do you need to do? Make that list on a piece of paper, or you can do it on your smartphone or in an app. Access online media in English. Read the news in English. Use social media in English. Everything you do in your native language, I want you to think about it. You can make a list of all the things you do in your native language every day. Maybe I didn't mention some of them, but think about how you could do each of those things in English. And before you know it, as you do this little by little, you don't have to do everything at once. Just pick one thing to start today. Right now, you'll be thinking in English. That's it, it's absolutely possible. Just start and don't look back. And you'll improve your fluency in no time. And mindset is a big part of it because you have to believe that you're capable of thinking in English. If you don't think you can do it, it's going to be very hard to do. So first, believe that you can think in English like a native speaker, and then you'll develop that skill much more easily. Here to help you think in English by listening to more English. So, we know that immersion is a key way to become fluent in a language. And a lot of people spend a lot of money and time traveling to places where the language they want to learn is spoken. For example, if I want to learn Spanish, I go spend a year in Spain, right? That's what I have to do, right? Well, it's great to be able to do that, but you don't have to. And here's the crazy irony, many people, for example, many American students who might go to Spain to learn Spanish, end up hanging out or spending time mostly with other English speakers. Why do they do that? If their goal is to go to Spain to learn Spanish, well, because it's comfortable, because it's easy, and people naturally like to do what's easy. So, now you, the English learner, you might be learning English in a country where English is not the official language, or you might be in the United States, where English is not the official language, but still. Most people speak English in the United States, and so you'd think, wow, it must be really easy to learn English if you live here, right? Wrong. I know because I've lived in other countries, and I know that you really have to push yourself. You really have to take steps and have a plan to immerse yourself in the language. It doesn't just happen. People don't just start coming up to you and speaking English for no good reason. So, here's how you can take back the power. Control your English immersion program. Whether you're in an English-speaking country or not. So, listen to more English. How? Listen to songs in English. Here are some suggestions. Anything by the Beatles, something more current, Adele's Hello, or Wiz Khalifa's See You Again, or Ed Sheeran's Shape of You. These are all super popular songs, maybe Justin Bieber songs. His songs are so fun. Anyway, listen to more English songs and listen to more spoken English, like the radio or internet radio. You could listen to the news in English. There are stations specifically for English learners, like BBC English Learning and The Voice of America, an American program for English learners that shows you the news in English, and you can listen to programs, sitcoms like Friends, or, you know, something a little scarier, like I love The Walking Dead. I'm kind of hooked on it, and I can't wait for it to come out soon. Very soon. So soon. And movies. If you love movies, that's a great way to immerse yourself in English. C. The key is to do what you enjoy doing in English. Listening or watching, listen to materials that you enjoy, and watch shows that you enjoy, because that will keep your attention. But the thing is, you don't always have to pay full attention to the English material to be immersed in it. You can actually have music on in the background while you're doing your work or doing chores. You don't have to be 100% focused, because just being in an environment where you're hearing a lot of English can also help. So, make a plan for yourself and make it a habit to immerse yourself in English. Write down 5 things you could do specifically. Could you listen to a few songs, or could you listen to the news tomorrow in English? Well, many English learners say, hey, but you know, I don't know anyone who speaks English, and I really want to listen to real conversations in real life. Well, here's a life hack for that. I mean, we live in the age of Facebook, right? So, if you're on Facebook, you could find friends who speak English and see if they do Facebook Lives. You know, a lot of people do it just for fun, and a lot of businesses do it for business reasons. So you could find a page where someone is doing a Facebook Live. It could be Facebook, it could be Twitter, Instagram videos. There are many places to get exposure to real, everyday spoken English, and you don't even have to personally know someone who speaks English, so take these steps today. Write down a few things you could do to immerse yourself in English, no matter where you are. To listen to more English, and let me know in the comments what you want to do, starting right now. To immerse yourself in more English. Today I want to share with you a few tips for using a monolingual English dictionary, meaning English-English, not English-Spanish, English-Portuguese, English-Arabic, English-Turkish, or whatever your native language is. It's an all-English dictionary. Monolingual means one language, English-English, so it's very important that you start using a monolingual dictionary and throw out your bilingual dictionary because we need to develop your English thinking skills. Why? Because when you're always translating from English to your native language, from your native language back to English, it takes a lot of time, so, if you're in an English conversation or trying to participate, you can't just say, hey guys, hold on, could you just stop? Well, I'm gonna check my dictionary because I'm not sure what you said, so everybody just stop talking because I need to translate this real quick, okay? Got it. Now let me translate my thoughts from my native language back into English. Okay, guys, I'm ready to actually answer now. That's not how it works, especially in fast-paced conversations. Maybe in a meeting or some high-pressure business situation. You need to be ready to respond. And to respond, you first need to understand. So, we need to get your thinking skills working quickly in English. The best way to do that, or one of the best ways, is to use a monolingual dictionary. Now, some people say this, but Gabby, it doesn't work. When I look up a word in a monolingual dictionary, it just gives me more words I don't know. So I still don't understand the word I looked up. And now I feel even more confused because all the other words are new, and I'm confused. And now I feel really stupid and bad, and why did I even try? Guys, relax. That's going to happen. Do you remember the last time in your language, in your native language, when you didn't know what a word meant? I'll give you an example in English. Okay, I learned a new word the other day, amortization. What does that mean? Well, I kind of thought I knew what it meant, but I looked it up, and even after I looked it up in an English dictionary, I did something else. I searched for examples of how it's used on websites, and I did something else. I searched for images through Google Images. So I Googled the word and then looked at the pictures to see how it's visually described. And that's an amazing way for you to clarify any doubts about a new word is to use Google Images and also to see how the word is used in context on other websites so you have a variety of diverse and numerous sources of information, not just your one monolingual dictionary, but now you have the entire internet. Oh my gosh, the internet is pretty awesome. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a great place to find more information about words and the meanings of things. You can learn anything on the internet, even English. Okay, so use all the tools you have, and don't give up if you don't get it right away. You have to try and try again. If you didn't understand the meaning right away, just breathe and keep looking for information, or, just let it go, because it actually takes several exposures to a word, multiple times, to learn a word by heart, to really understand the meaning and remember that word. So it's okay. It's okay if at first you don't really quite understand the meaning of a word and can't remember it at all. So just relax and keep engaging with English. Keep reading, keep listening, and maybe make notes of those words you'd like to look up, that you'd like to learn more about. And believe me, with that positive attitude and by not giving up, just by continuing day by day, you will improve quickly. You are already improving. You're watching Natural English. You're doing the right things. Now, you've asked me a lot about how to think in English, how to expand your English vocabulary, and how to improve your English accent to be a more confident, fluent English speaker. And I'm here to help you. So, we're going to talk about how to do these things in a fun way, the way I did it in Spanish, Portuguese, and other languages I've studied. This is the #1 way that I personally enjoy, and everyone's different. Maybe this isn't for you, but I'm going to share the #1 way that worked for me and give you some examples. Okay, if that sounds good, then keep watching. When I was learning Spanish, I had a job as a waitress in a restaurant, and I wanted to be able to practice my Spanish while I was working, but there wasn't really anyone to talk to. I was serving tables all by myself, but, I had to clean tables and set them. And while I was doing that, to practice Spanish, I would sing one of my favorite songs. So I learned a few songs that I personally liked, and I would just sing them to myself while cleaning tables. So I'd be like, "Bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez." And I forget the rest of the song, but something like "otra vez." So, yeah, you might know that one. It's kind of a classic Spanish song. I'm learning, and I'd kind of dance a little while, setting the tables, like "Quiero tener muy cerca, mirarme en tus ojos, ver junto a mí." Passing by me. Again. There it is. Okay, so it came back to me. If you know that song, you know it's a very old song, so don't blame me if I didn't remember the words right away. So you can do this too with English, and I don't know your musical tastes. I don't know if you like dance music, if you like country, if you like hip-hop, pop, whatever. You can tell me in the comments, actually, what kind of music you prefer to listen to. But I can tell you that there are some great songs that really cross genres, and you'll probably enjoy. The lyrics are pretty clear, although some songs have really hard to understand lyrics. So I'm going to recommend a few songs for you to learn in English right now, because not only is it fun to learn songs because you like the music, but you'll learn new vocabulary words. When you see the lyrics, you'll naturally be curious if you don't know a word, and song lyrics are a great way to learn new vocabulary that's relevant. You'll learn more slang. You'll learn more of the English that people actually speak in everyday life. It's usually more informal, but that's important if you want to have everyday conversations with people you know, on the streets, at a bar, at a party, or wherever. Now, this can be a problem if you're taking English classes. For example, when I was taking Spanish classes, I listened to a lot of manga. And I remember, I used a word in one of my papers for Spanish class that my teacher didn't like. And she gave me a bad grade on that paper because she said the word I used wasn't appropriate for a paper, for an essay. So, if you're Dominican, you might already know this word. So, I said in my paper, I wrote something like, "It's like a nightmare." And I don't even remember what the essay was about, but my teacher circled that word, saying that "cheving," or whatever that slang was, perhaps vaina is the word I'm thinking of, was an inappropriate word for an essay. But I like that word because people actually use it all the time. Am I right, Dominicans? If you're watching, comment, tell me I'm right. I need validation because vaina is such a cool word, I love it. So, there are words like that in English that you should learn, that your English teacher might not tell you about because he or she might be very obsessed with proper English, which is great. If you want to speak proper English, you should know how to do it. However, you should also know how to use everyday vocabulary and how to talk to people and how to understand a normal conversation. So song lyrics will also really help you with pronunciation because there's a rhythm, right? The music sets the rhythm for the words. Or the words fit the rhythm of the music, however you think about it, and you'll learn word stress, phrase stress, the way we link sounds from word to word, from phrase to phrase. And that's something your textbook might not teach you. So, also the melody, the music itself helps us remember everything together. The vocabulary, the pronunciation, everything in that melody will help activate your memory and help you remember it. Because when we associate the sounds of music with other things we're learning, it really helps us remember. So learning a song you love is very helpful. I'd recommend Adele's Hello. Anything by the Beatles, Ed Sheeran's Shape of You, and Wiz Khalifa's See You Again. These are all super popular songs whose lyrics you might enjoy learning, so use music as your tool and a fun way to improve your English skills. This will help you think in English because when you're working or doing other things, you can sing to yourself. You can make up lyrics, you can sing out loud, you can, sing in your head or actually sing under your breath, or just really let it out and sing out loud. If no one's around, right? Or, maybe if there are other people around, hey, maybe if you're really good, it'll be a great way to make some money too. You can put out a tip jar, and you can just go with the flow and see what happens. Okay? Anyway, this will also help you improve your vocabulary when you look up new words from the song lyrics. Go online. Just type in lyrics and the song you want to learn, and there are lyrics for every song. And this will also help your pronunciation. Like I mentioned, listen carefully to how the singer pronounces the words, sings the words, and imitate that. Even if you're not singing, if you just say the words with the same intonation, the same rhythm, you'll improve your speaking skills. Now, if you've ever tried to think in English, but the only thing that comes out is your native language or maybe another language, then this video is for you. Keep watching. Now I want to tell you that if you like this video tip, you should definitely check out my video with the 9 best ways to think in English, so you can click right there to find it. So, how do we develop our English thinking skills? One of the most important things you can do is to start small. Seriously, most people give up because they try to think all the time, 100% in English. And when that doesn't happen, when one word slips out in their native language or another language, they get frustrated. Just stop and say, "Oh, I suck as an English thinker, and I'm just going to stop trying." No, that's the wrong answer, guys. You have to start small so you can build your confidence by seeing your small successes every day. So give yourself a chance to succeed before you say, "Oh my gosh, this is never going to work, I give up." Let me show you. Let me give you some examples of how to give yourself easy wins or successes when you start thinking in English by starting small. Now I know what it's like. I know how frustrating it can be because when I was learning Japanese, I had already learned Spanish. So I learned Spanish first. And then I went to Japan to teach English, and I was trying to learn Japanese. And every time I tried to think in Japanese, Spanish would come out of my mouth. It would pop into my head first, like, I wanted to say hello, konnichiwa. But the only thing I could think of was hola. And it was so frustrating. But here's the thing, you have to start small, and also, don't get frustrated if at first you're not thinking in English. You say, "Okay, it's okay, brain. It's okay, I forgive you. Let's work together. We can be a great team. You and I, my brain." You have to be patient with your brain, whatever you want it to do. For example, something physical, like if you wanted to run a marathon, you can't just say, "Hey, legs, I want you to run a marathon. Go. And if you can't finish that marathon today, I'm going to be really mad at you." That's just not how it works. Your brain is a muscle. Just like your legs. Just like building up your cardio. You have to build up your ability to think in English, so start small. For example, switch your phone to English. Yeah, it might be a little confusing at first, but just make sure you have a plan B and you know how to switch your phone back to your native language. Just in case you're not sure what all the buttons and stuff mean, or all the other features on the screen in English. Okay, another thing you can do, I love to-do lists. I'm the queen of making to-do lists, writing down everything I need to do every day, and a lot of things I don't need to do. You can make your to-do lists in English. So instead of, if you're writing things in Spanish, or if you don't even use to-do lists, start making a to-do list. So if I'm learning Spanish, I might say, today I'm going to me, or, do homework, or, what else might I need to do? Like, go grocery shopping? So, go out to the supermarket. Now, this is another thing you can do, if you want to make your grocery list in English. If you need to go to the supermarket, write down the foods or items you want to buy, so these are really simple, everyday things you can do in English. Another way I like to start small is just by describing what I'm doing in English. So if I'm learning Spanish, for example, I'd be thinking to myself, this video, or maybe in Portuguese, this video on the gravel path. So I can just literally tell myself, or even out loud, what I'm doing in the moment, and that really helps you, very easily, start to formulate your thoughts in English. And then you can start describing what other people around you are doing. So maybe you're at work, and you see your colleague, and she's on Facebook or something when she's not supposed to be, and you could say, in English, oh, my colleague is on Facebook, or, if I'm learning Japanese, I might say, 𝒚𝒐𝒖𝒓. I don't know if that's right, but if you speak Japanese, you can correct me. Because the thing is, it doesn't matter right now if your thoughts are 100% perfect. The point is to start using English in small chunks every day. And if it's not right, that's okay. The most important thing is to allow yourself that space to use the language in your mind, to think, even in small, everyday situations. And then you can correct yourself as you learn. So it's really an evolution. You have to trust the process and that you'll progress as you learn more and more. Be patient with yourself. Be forgiving with yourself. If you make mistakes, be patient with your brain. Say, come on, brain, we're going to practice a little more today to build up our stamina and skills for tomorrow, to become an even more fluent, confident English speaker. It's really hot out here. Okay, last thing you could do, quick example, is leave a comment on this video in English. It's a small everyday activity, and you can write a very short phrase or a long comment, whatever you're comfortable with. But it's a great way to use your English. So I'll stop there. But remember, you can start thinking in English in small steps, so don't give up if you can't think 100% in English all the time. Remember, it's like a marathon. You just need to start training. And if you can only run for 5 minutes a day, eventually, over time, you'll get to a marathon pace. Now, what I mean by that, thinking in English, if you can think in English for 30 seconds today, maybe 1 minute tomorrow, 5 minutes the day after tomorrow, pretty soon you'll be thinking in English all the time, so you can do it. I believe in you. You're doing great here with the Natural English lesson to help you stop translating everything from English to your native language, in your head, in your mind, and in your brain, and start thinking only in English. It's possible. Believe me, no matter what level you're at now, it's possible to think in English, and I'll show you how. I'll give you 9 tips to help you on your journey to thinking just like a native English speaker. So, if you're interested in that, then keep watching. So, first, what's the problem with translating everything into your native language before you come up with an answer in English? Well, if you're in a conversation or some situation where you need to really quickly process information and be able to react quickly in an appropriate, timely manner, then you really don't have time to translate. Even if you're super smart, and I know you are, and you're really good at English, and I know you are, it still takes time to process all the information you're receiving in English into your native language, and then think in your native language. Okay, what am I going to say? How am I going to respond? And then translate that back into English. That's a lot of work for your brain, and no matter how amazingly smart you are, it's going to take too much time in a fast-paced conversation like native speakers have. So, if you're in a social situation, if you're at a meeting at work, if you're at a presentation and want to ask questions, you really need to be able to think in English. So the problem started with how we learn foreign languages. It happened to me when I was studying Spanish in class. How did we learn? We learned through translation from Spanish. I learned that 1 is uno, and 2 is dos. And, let's see, coffee is café, and so on. So, of course, that's easy. And it makes sense to start that way because we know the vocabulary in our native language, but it actually hurts us once we move on to conversational English, or in my case, conversational Spanish. So, when I got out of class, when I left my Spanish class, and tried to strike up a conversation with native Spanish speakers, I was, like, in total shock. My jaw dropped because I couldn't understand anything. And I definitely couldn't respond because I was trying to just identify a few words that I might recognize, that I might hear, that I might understand, and then translate them into English, and then think in English to translate back into Spanish, and I was a mess. So I don't want that to happen to you. Maybe you already know what that's like. Let me give you some suggestions to get you started thinking in English. First, let's start small. Understanding everything in English and being able to respond in English is like a big meal. It's a lot of vocabulary or a lot of food to digest, right? So let's start with small bites and digest them thoroughly. So, start by doing small daily tasks in English. So, for example, every day I walk my dog, or sometimes we go for a run. So sometimes I talk to him, usually in English, but sometimes, to really confuse him, I talk to him in Spanish, and instead of saying, "Come on, let's go," I'll say "Ven, vámonos," right? So you could do that in English, maybe if you have a pet, or if you don't have a pet, there are other ways. I bet you have a phone. If you have a smartphone, you could set it to English so that every time you open your phone, there's English vocabulary for you to engage with. That's an example of a daily activity, probably several times a day. You look at your phone, which you could be using in English, and maybe there are other things you can think of. So, what other suggestions for small daily tasks could you do in English? Comment. Let me know what you think. Okay, next, listen to more English. This doesn't even have to take up more of your time. You can create an immersive English experience for yourself wherever you are. Open your laptop or smartphone and download some English podcasts, or listen to internet radio, or put on a YouTube video or Netflix in English and play it in the background while you're doing other work that doesn't require intense concentration. I love doing this when I'm just doing chores or, for example, organizing things in my room, office, or wherever. I'll listen to music in other languages because I love learning song lyrics in Spanish, Portuguese, or other languages I want to learn. So just recently, I was listening in Spanish to a song called 𝒎𝒪𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧𝒧 versa. But anyway, let me continue with the tips for thinking in English, right? Try to guess or anticipate what native English speakers will say in the next conversation, or at that presentation, or in whatever situation you find yourself in English. So, when you predict, based on your life experience, what you think people will say, you'll be more prepared and more confident. You're preparing your brain to receive this information, and you'll be surprised, probably 8 times out of 10, you'll be right. Now, don't get too attached to your prediction, because, of course, other people don't know the script that's going on in your head. So be ready for something different to come out of people's mouths. But just by exploring different options, or your prediction, or guess about what you think will happen, you'll feel much more confident, and you'll be able to process that information faster and think in English yourself, because you're already thinking when you predict what will happen in the conversation. 4. Stop learning exclusively through translation, especially once you're past the beginner stages of English. We need to learn through association, through experience, through observation, watching, listening, through touch. Through your life experience. You need to associate the word with the meaning, not an English word with your native language word. Okay, words are they're just letters, okay, the real, true meaning is what you understand. And then you can attach that to the word, okay. So a book isn't necessarily libro in Spanish or Portuguese. It's the thing with sheets of paper and writing that I can read and learn from. So I hope that makes sense. But you have to stop learning exclusively through translation. And next, a very closely related point, number 5, stop using a bilingual dictionary. The best use for your bilingual dictionary where it has English and then your native language, is actually as a coaster that you put your coffee cup on the table, so it doesn't leave a ring on your table. That's the best use for it, because if you keep using that bilingual dictionary to learn vocabulary in English, you'll always be practicing translation, so just use that thing as a coaster or something else and use a monolingual dictionary instead. Monolingual means one language, meaning English, and you will exponentially expand your English vocabulary when you do that. Next, number 6, label items in your environment in English. You can just do this in your head. It's very simple, very quick and easy, doesn't cost anything, or you could actually write the words on paper and stick those labels right on the items, or use sticky notes or something like that. And, for example, if I see a book and I'm learning Spanish, then I'd write on my sticky note libro. I think I said libro before, but that's actually Portuguese. I get confused between Spanish and Portuguese. I'll be honest with you, it's not always easy learning both at the same time. So, anyway, libro is book. If I'm learning Spanish, maybe livro. If I'm learning Portuguese, hey, if I'm learning Arabic, it's kitab. You can help me with the pronunciation in the comments, but put labels on everyday objects. This is really especially helpful for beginner and intermediate English learners, but it can be fun just to remind yourself to think in English at any level. Number 7, talk to yourself in English. When you talk to yourself out loud, it benefits you so much. Not only will you practice your pronunciation, your speech, your vocabulary, your fluency, but you'll also develop the skill of thinking in English. So, what things should you say when you talk to yourself out loud in English? And when should you do it? Well, first, I'd suggest doing it perhaps in the privacy of your own home, maybe not around your colleagues or people who might think you've gone crazy. So what do you say to yourself? Well, you could ask yourself questions. For example, right now I'm thinking, what am I going to eat for lunch today? So if I'm trying to improve my Portuguese, I might think to myself and say out loud, 𝒂𝒐𝒊𝒔𝒉. What am I going to eat? Or, 𝒂𝒐𝒊𝒔𝒉. What am I going to have for lunch? Is that what you're planning more? So yeah, I think that's right. If it's not, you can tell me in the comments. But it's okay if you make a mistake talking out loud to yourself. If your grammar isn't perfect, if your pronunciation isn't perfect, that's okay, because the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is for you to develop the habit of thinking and speaking in the language. So that's totally fine, just make a mental note of what you're not sure about. If you're not sure if you should use, for example, an article, or whatever it is you're not sure about, and then you could ask someone, just like I asked you in the comments, you could ask your native speaker friend, your teacher, or do some research online. Another way I really like to talk to myself out loud in the languages I'm learning is to sing a song. So, I mentioned earlier I was listening to a song called 𝒌𝒪𝒆, which means you will cry. Oh, it's a pretty sad song, actually, but I love singing that song when I'm just, doing chores or walking the dog. I'll just be like, yeah. Sings a bit of 𝒌𝒪𝒆. So, I'm not a great singer, so I'll stop. But just to give you an example, that's what I love to do. And I might even throw in a few salsa moves while I'm singing. 8. Just start thinking in English with a mantra, or a motto, or some phrase that just gets you going, like on autopilot. It's automatic. So my phrase might be, I'm improving my English every day. And I'd say that in English, out loud to myself, or just think it. Okay, if I'm learning Portuguese, I might say to myself, Bora, kind of like just, show me some random new Portuguese. Yeah, okay. Like with emotion, that's really important. Really, really important. Even if I look crazy, it doesn't matter. It really helps you, lifts your spirits, and gives you energy to improve your language skills. Finally, number 9, our last tip to help you think in English, is just to do a little bit every day. So don't force yourself to think in English all day, every day, from the very beginning or right off the bat. Just start with 30 seconds. I'm sure you can think in English for 30 seconds. You could set an alarm, maybe every day at 9 a.m., you'll think in English for 30 seconds. So, on your phone, Set an alarm for 9 a.m., and you can call it Think in English, and then set a timer for 30 seconds and just think in English. It doesn't matter how simple or silly it is, you could just tell yourself hello over and over again for 30 seconds if that's the best you can do. I know you can do better. I know, but that's just an example that it doesn't matter how complex your English is when you're practicing thinking in English. What matters is that you start and that you're consistent, so do a little bit every day. And you'll be thinking in English all day, in no time. Now, in this English hot seat, I'm going to answer a question from a Fluent English community member. John told me his biggest challenge is how to think only in English. So, in this quick tip, I'll give you my advice. Let's talk about how to think only in English. So, look here. I wrote on my board. First of all, start small. You don't have to think every thought completely in English. Start with words you know. For example, let's look here. I have a book. Do you know the word book? Of course, you do. I just said book. Right. But if I'm trying to learn another language, for example, I'm trying to learn Portuguese, I might think to myself, I'm going to read a livro. So you can think in your native language, but then add in the words you know in English. So start small and imperfectly, these are just your thoughts in your head. No one else will hear your thoughts. So making mistakes is okay. It's okay if you think with bad grammar. Nobody will know. So think with the best grammar and best vocabulary you're capable of. But if you know it's not perfect, that's okay. What you need to do is take note of what you don't know and find out. So, if you know you're thinking with bad grammar, or if you're not sure, write it down. Write yourself a note, is this right? And write down the grammar you have a question about, or the vocabulary. You realize you have a question. Let's say I don't know the word for book in another language, I'll write that down. What's the word for book? How can I say book in Portuguese or another language I'm learning? Okay, then you find out. Now, you can find out the correct way to say things in many different ways. You can ask a friend who speaks English, or you're learning English with them as an English teacher. Now look online, Google it now. When I was learning other languages, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Japanese, and I love learning languages. So I'm not trying to brag, but I really love learning how to speak other languages like a native, and I had a really hard time finding answers online. Or I just don't have a friend nearby who speaks that language fluently, so I recommend going online, trying an online lesson, and you can ask your English teacher, how can I say this in a natural or native way? How do native speakers talk about this? Whatever you want to talk about. Now here are some more ideas for thinking in English, ID or identify objects. Oh. What's this? It's a plant, right? So think in English. Ask me some questions in English or in your native language, but just look around you. Where are you? What environment are you in? Can you label the items you see? That's a great way to start, and you'll quickly find out which parts of your vocabulary need development, so identify planning. I know we all think about what we're going to do in our lives. So ask yourself in English, what am I going to do today? What do I want to do this weekend? And make those plans in your mind in English. Make up stories? Yeah, I love this one. So if you have some free time, maybe you're, on the bus or just waiting for someone, make up a little story. It could be while you're walking around. Let's say I'm going to a coffee shop and I see someone, I might think to myself, I wonder what they do. Oh, maybe he works as a banker. Maybe he has a family. So I'm thinking to myself in English, I'm making up some stories about people I see, or I could completely make things up in my mind. If you're a creative person, you might find this easy to do and come up with conversations. I want you to imagine you're having the kind of conversation you'd like to have. So, imagine a person you'd like to talk to. What would you want to say to him, her, or them? Would you ask them questions? Of course, you would, because that's how we keep conversations interesting. Think about what questions you could ask. What information would you share about yourself? So make up a conversation in your mind. Even imagine what the other person would say to you. Now, these are all great ways to think in English, and if you keep doing this, if you keep just starting small, imperfection is okay. If you identify things around you, if you made your plans in your mind or, wrote a to-do list in English, made up stories, made up conversations, and this is where you'll grow the most. Make a note. Actually, it can be in your mind, or you can write it down, or you can type it into your smartphone, send yourself an email, whatever you do to stay organized with your notes, and understand, and realize, and just make a note of those words or grammar points that you're not sure how to say. Maybe there's an idiom that you think you've heard people say in English, but you're not quite sure what it is, or a slang word you'd like to ask about. What I'm going to share with you today will change the way you learn English forever. It will change your fluency and help you become more confident in your English speaking. Now, throughout our English learning in the classroom, there's a lot of focus on what you did wrong. Did you get the answer right? Did you get the answer wrong in class, on a test? Did you pass the exam? Did you pass your class and move on to the next level? Well, that kind of thinking doesn't help your fluency as much as another kind of thinking that I'm going to introduce to you today. How to think your way to English fluency. Now, this is different from how to think in fluent English. I have a video that shows you how to do that with 9 simple techniques. I'll link to it in the description, so you can also watch that if you're interested. But this isn't just about how to think in English. It's about how to use your thought patterns. Use your own mind fluently to improve your English fluency. And this isn't taught in any class, but I found it to be extremely helpful for my English students and in my own life. We often focus on what we're doing wrong in English, and we think so much about how bad our English is, what mistakes we're making. Why are we making these mistakes? Why can't I remember vocabulary? Why did I get a bad grade on the grammar test? These are thoughts that many English learners have. That's the system of our education, focused on what you don't know. But I'm going to suggest how to change that to your advantage. And it doesn't require you to buy anything or spend money. It's just retraining your brain. And I'm going to share these secrets with you openly, so, if you're ready to change your mindset for better fluency, so that it benefits you, then let's continue. Now, why should you even care about retraining your mindset? Because the way you think about your English speaking really controls your motivation and your willpower to learn. Your discipline to learn depends on how you think. How do you think? Which person do you think is more likely to become fluent? The person who's always thinking, "My English is terrible. My English is so bad, I don't like English. I don't like classes. I feel humiliated and embarrassed every time I do something wrong. I feel so shy. I can't talk to native speakers. This is terrible, I don't like this at all." Oh, or the person who thinks this is an adventure, and making mistakes is part of my journey. I am 100% capable of speaking English fluently, as close to native as I decide to speak. This is when I make mistakes. These are just reminders that I can improve every day. I'm improving little by little. I love learning, I love challenges, and actually, I love making mistakes because they help me grow and get better every day. It's okay if I make a mistake. When a test, a teacher, or even a real-life conversation shows me I made a mistake, I accept it, I learn. I'm patient with myself and I ask others to be patient with me too. This is an incredible journey I'm on to English fluency. Wow! How did you feel after each of those examples? Because after I gave the first example with a lot of negative thoughts, I felt very sluggish. When I gave the second example with some positive thinking. It's about the same students, it's the same person, but it's a different way of thinking. I felt much more motivated, I felt happy, I felt light. How did you feel? Tell me in the comments if you felt anything, if you felt happy, sad, motivated, or unmotivated. And this is what I'm trying to share with you today. The way you think about your English speaking and your English learning will affect how fluent you become, so you create your own results through your thinking. Because if you think you're a bad English speaker, those will be your results. If you think you're on an amazing, incredible journey to English fluency, and you can do it, and every day you're getting closer, you will become fluent. See, we create our own barriers, our own walls, our own challenges that we either decide we can overcome or we can't. And that's why so many English learners get stuck at the intermediate level. Because they don't believe they can go further. They don't believe they can achieve fluency. And so they resign themselves to just accepting that their English will always be terrible. And the most important part of this is that when you think negative thoughts, it demotivates you and makes you want to stop doing that activity. Which activity are you more likely to want to continue doing? Something that's depressing and you feel bad about? Or something exciting, an opportunity, and you feel good when you do it? See, English is a journey. It's a practice. It's like any sport you might play. You have to constantly practice to keep your skills at a high level, and so we have to control how we think about this skill so that we want to keep doing it. I hope that makes sense so far. It's so important for us to learn how to control our thinking. And through our thinking, we can become more fluent. English fluency isn't just about being a perfect student and getting perfect grades. Because when you go out into real life and you have to speak English with native and non-native speakers in the real world, it's not like any written grammar test. It's not like TOEFL, IELTS, or any number of tests. There are dozens of them out there. You have to be resilient. You have to deal with challenges, misunderstandings, mistakes. They will happen, and you have to expect them to happen, and be ready, and not only ready, but not afraid. You have to actually look forward to these things. Oh yeah, I can't wait for someone to misunderstand me so I can practice my communication muscles and find a better way to get my point across. And clarify what I meant to say, and become a better communicator, so you're no longer living in fear of making a mistake, in fear of being misunderstood. It's not always your fault. Sometimes the person we're talking to has some difficulty understanding, but that's our chance to help them be creative, to practice those communication muscles. Like I said, I want to share very specific practical exercises you can do to change your mindset, because it's hard to just snap your fingers and instantly start thinking differently. Your brain is also like a muscle that we have to train. And here are a few things you can do. First, start thinking about what you can do in English. What are your skills in English? Even if you're at a low level, you can still do some things. Maybe you know some vocabulary words. Maybe your pronunciation is getting better. Maybe there's something else you're proud of that you can do in English. You can perform some skill, some practical task, like ordering coffee or introducing yourself to a new friend. What can you do? And let's stop focusing so much on what you can't do. So, focus on what you can do. And I want you to every day, especially before English class, practice an affirmation, something positive about your English skills. For example, I'm improving every day. Although I make mistakes, they help me learn. I speak English well, I speak English well. Those are just a few examples. And by saying these affirmations, you're also practicing your English speaking. So it's a 2-for-1 exercise. So, we have, focus on what you can do. Affirmations and visualizations, that's a whole expression. Visualizations are when you imagine in your mind successfully speaking English. Imagine yourself in a situation, maybe you're on stage, giving a presentation at a professional conference in your field. You feel confident, you speak with ease, and everyone understands you, and not only understands, but hangs on your every word. They love you. Speaking English. I did this kind of visualization exercise before I went on stage in Portugal and gave a presentation in Portuguese. For the first time, I had to prepare myself to take advantage of this new opportunity, which was a challenge, but it was amazing, and by visualizing myself in that situation, I was able to do it just as I imagined, with confidence. And so you can imagine yourself in English-speaking situations, confident, feeling at ease, and speaking English fluently. Okay, so we have focus on what you can do. Affirmations and visualizations. And finally, I want you to focus on what you want to be able to do. So, where are you going? Because the more you focus on your mistakes and what you can't do, or what you're ashamed of, or how shy you are, or these other excuses that many of us have, which may be true, but focusing on them doesn't help. What will help is focusing on where you want to go. So this is different from focusing on what you can do in the present. This is focusing on the positive things, the good things that you will be able to do in English, not what you want or wish you could, but can't. Things that you will do soon, very soon. What is it that you will do in English? Maybe it's a presentation, maybe it's a job interview, maybe it's giving a tour in English, I don't know. What do you want to be able to do in English? I want you to focus on that. On what you want to be able to do. Maybe it's passing an exam, and that's okay, tests aren't bad. They're just tools to get us where we want to go in life. If you want to speak English fluently, do these 4 things. Focus on what you can do, affirmations, visualizations, and your future self. What you will be able to do in English, and that will change your mindset. It will help you stay motivated when you feel some challenge or some deficiency in your English, and it will help you be that fluent English speaker that I know you can be. If you only watched one video about how to think in English, this should be it. So many of you are still translating from your native language into English, and that's not helping your fluency. So, whether you call them tricks, life hacks, strategies, tips, or ideas, this is the video where we'll talk about how to really think in English, and some lesser-known ways to actually do it. You see, the truth is that the reason you're not already thinking in English lies in how you think in general. You see, thinking in English, to me, means you're truly fluent. You've internalized the language. What does that mean to you? Tell me in the comments what it means to be able to think in English. Here I am, Natural English. I'm going to show you how to use your mind smartly to think faster in English. So, clear your mind of things you know in your native language, because your first reaction is to translate, because you already know your native language. But instead of thinking, first and foremost, about the vocabulary you already know in your language, try to clear your mind, as if you were a little child learning a language for the first time. Now, there are some advantages to already knowing your native language, but to think in English, you really need to clear your mind, erase what you know, and start experiencing the world through English. First and foremost, learn English through meaning, educated guesses, not through translation. For example, I was in Brazil, learning Portuguese, and I went to a nightclub, and someone asked me 𝒂𝒅𝒐𝒂𝒁, and I made an educated guess that 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒁 means, do you want to dance? Because in that situation, it made perfect sense. And I was right. And 99% of the time, you'll be right if you make that kind of educated guess. So try to learn through meaning, the situation. I didn't have to pull out my dictionary to translate that understanding to do you want to dance? Try listening to talk radio stations in English on the internet. If you don't live in the United States or an English-speaking country, try listening to the radio. Even if you don't know what these DJs are talking about. Talk radio programs will help your ear and your brain start thinking in English. Because your brain is smart, your brain recognizes patterns. So, for fun, yesterday I was listening to a Norwegian internet radio station. And within 1 minute, I already understood that ja means yes, because I could recognize the patterns of conversation. One person was talking, and the other was responding, ja, ja. So I learned how to say yes in Norwegian without looking it up in a dictionary. So that's a very simple, basic example, but the point is, the more you immerse yourself in English directly, without translation, the more your brain will start to pick up patterns, because you're smart. Consuming any content in English will really help your brain identify patterns in English. To really start thinking in English as if it were your native language. So what you want to do is actually try less. Stop translating. Stop pulling out your dictionary to check words. Just immerse yourself in the language. Maybe find a show on Netflix, or Hulu, or Pluto TV, or whatever you use for your TV service. I prefer short, kind of realistic shows, even reality TV, because they're shorter, easier to digest, and give you really conversational English that you can pick up. So let your brain do its job, which it does naturally. Really breaking down the language and recognizing patterns. And do less. Try less, and your brain will naturally do its job. It's okay to use subtitles at first if you don't understand what's happening in English, but try to also listen to the language as you hear it. Sometimes, to brush up on my Japanese, I like to watch Terrace House on Netflix because I can listen to real people using Japanese in a conversational way. So, while not all reality shows are, let's say, good for you to watch, they can really help you think in English. Do you have a favorite reality show in English? Maybe you could suggest it in the comments here, if other people want to try watching. But the key point here is that if you use subtitles, make sure you're still listening to what you hear and how people use words and phrases in English. And then try to repeat and remember some of those phrases that you could use yourself, without translating. When I was invited to give my TEDx talk in Portugal in Portuguese, I was terrified. I had never given a presentation in another language before, like that, in front of hundreds of Portuguese people. So I really had no room for error or for them not to understand me. So, here's what I did to prepare. Of course, I practiced Portuguese, but I had a vision of myself. I envisioned that day as a very successful day. I imagined myself speaking Portuguese fluently, giving an amazing presentation. And that's what you need to do for yourself in English. Whether it's giving a presentation or speaking fluently, thinking in English, dreaming in English, negotiating, whatever you want to do in English, imagine yourself. I want you to imagine yourself using English so powerfully, so fluently, and it's that vision that will give you the confidence and motivation to keep practicing, learning, and improving until you actually reach that point. Do less, think in terms of learning one new thing or using one new phrase in English. Every day, small steps make up a journey of 1,000 miles. I think Lao Tzu said that. And it's also true for English fluency and thinking in English. So many of us are overwhelmed with thoughts like, I'm not fluent yet. I want to be over there, I want to be that fluent, and I'm just not there. And that's very overwhelming because I need to learn, probably, 1,000,000 new words and phrases before I can ever speak fluently or think in English. That kind of thinking is harmful because you start to feel bad, overwhelmed, and stressed, and suddenly you're tired with no motivation or energy to actually practice and improve. If you keep practicing regularly, keep actively applying these effective strategies, I have no doubt that you'll see amazing and significant improvements in your skills. The more you immerse yourself in the language, the more natural and effortless it will feel to you. And always remember that learning English is an exciting lifelong journey, not a grueling sprint. You're already on the right path, and every bit of your practice counts and brings you closer to your goal. So now, take a deep breath, try to relax, and enjoy the process of learning and communicating itself. Let's continue this exciting journey together. Keep listening and using what you hear, keep learning, and keep moving forward, step by step. You've got this.